advertisement filled the whole side of the building. And in 2002, they had a huge ad of some model, some white model, modeling something that said Calvin Klein. And some things are not just coincident that it would just happen to be there. Some things is like, let's joke at the people. Let's make this some fun. Let's give them a joke that I started out here. You see what I'm saying? So it's interesting how these things go on. But I just want to put that little bit of history about Harlem to say this particular part, though, too. Nevertheless, it does negate the spiritual history of Harlem because there's never been anybody significant to black people, whether it be conscious or entertainment or whatever, intellectual or whatever, who didn't have to stop by Harlem to put their feet, you see what I'm saying, in the mud up here.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? And we talk about all our greats, from entertainers, even Michael Jackson, after negating the black community for years, when the white boy turned against him.
Who did he come home
to? He came straight to Harlem.
That's right.
And although he gave, and I remember it's interesting, I remember Michael Jackson one time, it's interesting how when you're on top, you see what I'm saying, you can neglect people. I remember in the 80s when he was on top, they used to have these award shows, he would only go to the Grammys. At that time, the Grammys was big in America. Another one that was big, and he would only go to those particular awards. But any of the black awards, he would receive his award home on his couch. Then all of a sudden, when he failed, the next thing you know, he's showing up at Soul Train Awards. He's showing up at these particular awards. Now, I remember one year he was receiving Soul Train Award on his couch.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, when he fell on his behind, the first thing he did, he ran to Harlem because he was Michael Jackson. I remember. Black people ran behind the car. Ran behind his limousine, wherever he was in. But nevertheless, everything has to come to Harlem, including Bill Clinton, and including the racists like Bill O'Reilly.
Hey, I was writing that down. Al Sharpton snuck his racist ass into Harlem.
In Harlem.
He didn't announce it on his radio station that he was bringing them in, because he knew he would have had a lot of brothers going up against him, man. I would have been one of the first ones there.
Yeah.
To scream at him, to get at him.
Also, it goes to show you what is this man we dealing with when it comes to Al Sharpton.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You see, what is this? You know Bill O'Reilly and Fox Network is a Illuminati network, which even this guy, I can't think of his name, DeWan something, who writes for the New York, the Washington Post. And it was his show that Bill O'Reilly came back to that coming to us and talked about, you know, black people were civilized like that.
That's right.
You see, I think they got DeWan Williams, I think his name is. And it was interesting because he even said, you know, that it was on his show where Bill O'Reilly made these things, and he said that Bill O'Reilly said he went to a Anita Baker concert, and the people was just fighting or whatever. But come on, are you crazy? Who gonna fight at a Anita Baker concert? But he did say this. Now I want to give this credit for what he did say this. He said. He told the DeWan Williams, the reason why I said all that is my grandmama, she watched TV. The only images they give her is these crazy images of black people. My grandmama actually believed these stereotypes. You see what I'm saying? So on one hand, he did make these racist remarks, but then on the other hand, when he told the DeWan Williams, and this is what his grandmother believed. DeWan Williams said, you know, I don't blame your grandmama. Because if she's a woman that's in a certain part of the country, and she only image believes that, right? You see, folks don't believe that. But it's just amazing how this mysterious Harlem is.
Yeah.
So one other thing I want to add, because I'm glad that the Schomburg is here, because they just had this slave, and I'm telling people to go to the exhibit. They just opened this memorial to all the slaves that they found. You know, they found so many blocks of slaves. Right. They built New York African burial ground in 1990. They hit upon it. They just opened a memorial, and they got the memorial to every African symbol. talking about religion, like the leg bar. They show the leg bar. They serve a Razuli. You see the leg bar and Cuba, Razuli, the homie Africa, and they also show Salamander, the Congo, which you never see. So they even have that being represented down there, and all of the African symbols. But it was the Schomburger that had this type of information that when the architect put the stuff together, these symbols to go to a place that has been working diligently for well over a century almost to get this particular information close to the first part of that, to get this type of information, that he would have available with the right symbols there. So that's real interesting. What I also want to talk about is, we're getting a couple of things tonight. I want to get into things. I'm all right. I'm getting to some things that happened at the turn of the decade, which was started happening in 2000. In the 2000s, the Europeans were scared. We noticed this because the end of the 20th century, we had movies like The Matrix, and we had movies like Pitch Black. You had a lot of movies that came out that had black people in it. They stopped killing them. Mm-hmm. And these black people became heroes like Blade. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And different things like that. So they stopped killing black people in these particular movies because they were afraid. They were afraid that when the millennium came in, that they might not be around. Mm-hmm. So two things they did was they stopped killing people and made the hero to say, well, we'll lasso to this particular star, but we don't know what these people are going to turn into. But the other thing they did was the fear factor was, and their own fear was, that we must take down certain prominent black leaders. You see what I'm saying? And we must take these leaders down. Now, they're necessarily these leaders because it was necessarily 100% in the black people's corner. Some of them worked hard, some of them were shysters and pimps or whatever type things. But nevertheless, you can't be pimped now. Nobody can pimp a person who really don't want to be pimped. So this thing provides a service, and I'll go into what I was talking about in a few minutes. But that's not really important. But I want to say this particular thing. Whatever the message was, or whatever this particular scenario was, is the Europeans are what we call the ruling class. And my queen stopped telling me to call them powers that be, because that means you giving them power. Mm-hmm. And they ain't got no power. Their whole number one goal is to spread fear and make you think that they're stronger than what they really are.
Brother, our fear calls it the it. We just say it. Mm-hmm. We call it the it.
Yeah.
That's the name we give them that.
It. Well, it was a white clown on one of Stephen King's movies.
Right.
Now, it's interesting, but they were concerned about the millennium, mm-hmm. and who they must take down. Not necessarily that the leaders was so powerful, that the image of the leaders was powerful. That might spawn a revolution, or might spawn a Superman. We'll get into that in a few minutes. So they had to take them down also before 9/11. These people had to be out of the way. Mm-hmm. So they started with Jamil Al-Amin, known as H. Brown, down in Atlanta. Now, the night that he got the police officer got shot, they said on the news, that's why I always key to keep something where you can record something. The fastest thing is still a VCR where you can put a tape in and record real fast.
That's right, that's it.
Yeah, so always keep your VCR there and keep your blank tape. You can always transfer the DVD later.
That's right.
But they showed over the news that the person who shot the cop, they said they returned fire back and they hit the person. And they even showed the news that night. There was blood trail